Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our relatively irregular Tuesday stream.
Yes, we are live from Bugrashov Beach under the sunny sun of Tel Aviv. Tommy's here, Andrew Gold's here, Winston Marshall. Hey, Winston!
He's been shy.
Yeah, they're all here.
They're all here. They're all moving. You know, they're all grooving in the Tel Aviv sun.
I'm gonna have to part from one because I'm gonna have to get Jordan Peterson another mojito. But
yes, we're back.
we're back.
We're back.
Fuck off, Tim Pool, with that bloody beach ball.
We're back and we mean business. For those of you who've been living under a rock, don't forget.
Book.
Yes. All we'll say is it'll be throughout this, but book.
Book. Yes.
Have you considered book?
Yes. And if you've bought our book,
Yes.
have you considered buying more book?
Now, for those wondering and asking, I think I said it last time too, there will be a hardback available. We're just getting test copies done and getting a few things sorted, and there will be a PDF version too. You will be able to get a PDF file.
Yes, so there should be a little bit of a release soon. If you want to put the link in the chat as well for anyone that's interested.
I will do once I've combined it with the donation link as well. Since we are also still fully monetized, you can donate via the Ko-Fi.
So just stick the two of them in there.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So you can donate via the Ko-Fi, or you can buy book, or you can
become a member of the channel,
Yes.
or you can subscribe to the Substack, or you can give us a super chat or a super sticker or whatever else. But thank you to all the people who support our streams.
Yeah, thank you to all the little people in our computer who help support us.
Pop, pop, beep, beep.
Exactly.
Beep, beep, ding, ding. Beep,
Exactly. But now that it's come to a head, what we'll be talking about this week is actually one of our quite staple products. We've come back round. We're redoing some of the stuff in certain ways we did 2 years ago. This was a bit of an aside to a stream we did a while back called Demobilization.
Yes.
If I can, there I am. I'm on the lower third there. That was about your eco zones and the fact that
the fact that they're not doing 15-minute cities, but
No.
if you look at all the different little bits of regulation across how they're going to renegotiate public transport and how they're going to have low traffic neighbourhoods.
Yes,
and it was a myriad of things that when you were culminated together, you got 15-minute cities.
Kind of. What it really was as well was an attempt to discourage the private ownership of cars. There was a large amount of the discouragement of the private ownership of cars. But we talked about this in that stream, that really this is part of a move towards cars for the people, Comrade.
Yes.
That cars will become unaffordable for the individual and will be something provided to you by the government. And boy, were we right.
I think as well it'd be worth sort of to consider what our angle of attack is here.
Yes.
I don't think we're really interested in making some argument about whether this is capitalism or communism or socialism or whatever. I think really what we're looking at here is that we've ended up at such a level of decline that the state has become fundamentally involved in the provision of mobility to individuals.
Yes. To a very, very extreme degree. That this isn't an ideological imposition. People get this backwards. This isn't that the government doesn't want you to own a car. It doesn't, but it doesn't want you to own a car because it can no longer provide you one at a reasonable price.
Because it knows you can't afford one.
Yes, and they're trying to get, and they definitely know in 5 years you're not going to be able to afford one. So a lot of this is getting out ahead of material decline. A quick bit of background here for those who don't know what the Motobility scheme is. It is basically downstream from PIP. PIP,
Your personal independence payment.
yes, is basically the bundled together, what used to be incapacity benefit and disability benefit has been bundled into PIP.
Yes, but PIP, at least for the sake of a crossing our I's and dotting our T's, is not means tested, which is the main thing about it.
Yes, it is.
It actually doesn't matter what your quote-unquote financial condition is when you apply for PIP. Everybody's eligible.
Yes, it is, but it's only for working age people as well. This is not for disability benefits for pensioners, which are bundled off into the complete nightmare that is the pension system. But a quick aside here, an absolutely insane figure is that 1 in 10 working people are on PIP specifically, not on any form of benefit. 1 in 10 people are specifically on PIP.
Claiming some level of that, yes.
Yes, they are claiming some level of PIP.
And this, I mean, I suppose it also gets a lot into what we've discussed before is the class of people we refer to nowadays as economically inactive.
Yes. And
that these people aren't even now considered unemployed anymore because they are actually considered by the government unemployable.
Well, that's the point. We also talked about this in our economic inactivity stream. Why is nobody working? We called that. But this is part of the fiddle here, in that these people aren't considered not working because they're in working age benefits.
Yes.
They're not unemployed. They're on PIP. And so it shunts them off into a different area. But that figure, just keep that in mind. 1 in 10 people aged 16 to 64 in Britain is on PIP.
We should have got a little Foo Fighters soundbite.
1 in 10. This of course is where's Collapse Watch gone? I'm missing it here. There it is. We were. This of course we are on constant collapse watch, but this is very acute collapse watch.
Yes,
acute collapse watch.
And I think one of the things about this that really interests me in a certain sense is how much of a bolster not only of people's individual mobility this is,
yes,
but fundamentally supporting what is the new car market.
Yes.
And that, I mean, what's the statistics here? It's something like just about 20%.
Yes, it's 7 billion. It gets a £7 billion kind of injection effectively from the government.
Yes, and that's not 7 billion probably paid in the same way that you'd pay for your car on a lease payment over 4 years.
No.
I would imagine this is mostly upfront in some sense.
Well, yes, and then there's various complex agreements between Motobility, the entity, which is a complex entity which sells itself as different things when asked different things.
Yes.
We're not getting into whether this is capitalism or communism, because it's the public-private partnership. It is, gentlemen, this is Managerialism Manifest.
Should we go for a little bit at the start of the
This is a good article.
A bit of extra context.
We've been using Bloomberg quite regularly because Bloomberg has had some bizarrely good borderline value-free analysis articles on all kinds of things to do with the UK.
But the cat's at the bag with all this stuff anyway, so everyone can report it now.
It is, but this isn't right-wing slop-coded as everything else about it is. Because that's what, the headline story, BMW's on benefits. But it's worse than that. That's underselling it massively.
When customers ask for a specific model at Umesh Samani's used car dealership in Stoke-on-Trent, he knows exactly where to go. He'll most likely find it at a supplier that started to dominate the UK autos market of late. A business that bought 1 of every 5 new cars sold in the country last year and whose revenue rose to nearly £7 billion.
Again, that's their main source. Well, it was going to be the main source of that revenue is the taxpayer.
Motobility Operations Group plc looks at first glance like a normal company. Its HQ is a gleaming City of London skyscraper. It has just become one of Britain's biggest corporate borrowers. It even sparked outrage over fat cat pay a few years back. And yet it exists to serve a very specific type of customer. People on mobility benefits looking for a cheaper way to get a vehicle. As the number of Brits on sickness and disability support has rocketed in recent years, so have Motobility's sales. It uses its heft to buy new models in bulk, then leases them to claimants, usually for 3 years, before then selling them on to traders like Samani. That has made it the UK's leading car fleet operator and helped skew the market away from private buyers and sellers. There is a point here as well of clarification that we haven't actually completely worked out. There are fleet numbers
it's
for the relative number of new car payments made up by fleets. There is also numbers for Motability. What crossover exists between Motability being considered a fleet or being considered a government scheme is not actually made particularly clear.
Motability exists in this bizarre I'm leaning towards the fact that the percentage, as we'll get to later, is lumped in with Motability because Motability is a fleet provider. But Motability is this entity. They're talking about it like as a business here, but it isn't. It sells itself as a charity. It's really an NGO.
Yes.
It has a PLC arm, but it has many arms to it. We'll go a bit further down here.
But the company's dominance isn't a certainty, and that could have implications for the 4 top British banks who co-own the business.
Yes.
The investors who've been gobbling up its debt, and the car market that has come to rely on this new Leviathan's buying and selling. Just nice admittance of that there. With the UK in the middle of a root and branch review of state benefits and Chancellor Executive Rachel Reeves zeroing in on disability support, the future size and shape of the addressable market will be driven by the government. Motability is also exposed to any falls in second-hand car prices.
Yes, and so what this is communicating quite concisely, that this whole cut didn't materialise because they can't, but Motability has become the UK car market.
Yes.
It is 20% of the market. I believe private buyers are about 37% of the market.
Or they're less than that. I think the statistics for that's in one of the later articles somewhere. It might even be less than that.
It's around about that if you're generous. It's between 30 and 37 with some business numbers being thrown in there. And it's a bit of a mess, but there are it's more than 50% the numbers of normal private sales.
Yes.
Of normal sales to normal individuals. The number of Motability is creeping up towards that number. The differential between them is only about 17% of the market.
Yeah.
Which is, for a disability mobility scheme, supposedly, it's ridiculous because all the defences of this rest on saying, oh, it's just cars for disabled people. But the numbers make that completely retarded.
Yeah, it might as well just be renamed as like the Bureau of Mobility.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it's supplying here.
And what we've seen here is the UK collapse to such a degree that the mobility scheme that was usually meant for old people and genuinely disabled people with adapted cars, and that's the big tell here, very few Motability cars are adapted for disability.
Yes.
In fact, almost none of them. And we're not going to go into the slop stuff from people like Guido Fawkes who talk about people getting Motability for dyslexia. 1 in 10 people's on PIP. 1 in 10 people isn't actually chronically ill. Oh, of course.
I mean, there is also the obvious points to the fact that this is completely asymmetric.
Yes.
If you arrive in Britain and you cannot speak English, you already get points on your PIP thing for not being able to communicate.
Yes.
If on top of that, you decide that you can't count 10 pences and pound coins, and that you can't write, and that you need an interpreter, you are one basically fake chronic illness away from having all the points you need. You then just turn around and say you're anxious because of the asylum conditions you've escaped from, and therefore you need a way to get around, and before you know it, you've got a brand new BMW 1 Series.
Yes.
Whereas if you are born in Britain and you speak English and you can communicate on your own behalf, and you try and apply for PIP, unless you're like seriously like, I know again you mentioned the Guido Fawkes stuff that's all this slop about people with dyslexia and BPD or whatever.
It does, but it's well, the whole thing they're not saying is it's because they're brown.
Yes,
they were given PIP not because they're dyslexic, but because they're brown.
But much like what happened specifically during COVID, we have a situation where government fiat policy has created a situation where brown populations in Britain are actually being incentivised and given the opportunity to be mobile in a way that white Britons are not.
Yes.
You will not commute. That'll be Jamal's job.
Well, here's the inflection point. It peaked up in 2020, it crept up, it slowly reduced a bit, and in 2022, explosion. It has gone from 10%, 10 to 15% of new car sales, all the way up to 20.
That's because
20% of all new cars, again, all new cars sold in the UK are on Motability.
I think as well we need to consider that we will only probably get better statistics for this over time.
Yes.
Because between the start of 2020 and near enough the end of 2022, lots and lots of new car registrations across that 18-month period were all lumped together.
Yes.
So there's a
lag in the
strange,
numbers. So what we're really seeing is the inflection of probably about 2021, which is about right for the whole post, lockdown complete splurge thing.
Yeah. How big could we grow? I think a key determinant of that is the size of the eligible base, says Chief Financial Officer Matthew Hilton James. Eligibility and who's in that potential customer base is 100% not in our hands. That's for governments to determine.
The public-private partnership. The government goes, we're not doing it, the Motobility scheme is. And Motability goes, we're not doing it,
the government's doing it.
They're both doing it.
And they both get to turn around and go, well, it's not actually us, it's
Yes.
the DWP. Yeah, its owners, Barclays, HSBC, Lloyds Banking Group and NatWest Group, don't take a dividend. Any profits it makes are either kept as retained earnings or divvied out to a disability charity.
Again, the disability charity has more links to the government, and it's a charity, it's an NGO, it's a company, it's a financial vehicle for the big four banks, and it's also a government department. It is all of these things together. And I don't think most people will. A lot of people are going to attack it from the capitalist angle, as it were. Oh, these people profiting on the disabled, or people. Oh, it's a waste of money. BMWs on benefits, and nobody talks about the whole picture.
Yes.
Nobody talks about the fact that Britain, as a managed economy, has to do this.
Yes,
and to basically stay afloat. That these are desperation measures against collapse. These are non-ideological measures. These are measures to keep, one, the UK car market afloat, and two, to keep cars in circulation, because nobody wants to buy new cars, as we'll get to.
And I think a large part of this as well, and it's something that winds me up sometimes. People in the chat, please consider this as your next move for actually people when it matters.
Yeah.
Tax isn't funding this.
No.
This is not being funded by tax. It's
No.
being funded by the creation of fiduciary media. It's the creation of new money. And I think if we start to see it more in that lens, we begin to see how circular and short-term this is. This isn't being funded by, you paying X amount off your monthly wages. Not at all.
This is the other bit, in that this is also, they're creating fiduciary media with it.
Well, they've got bonds based off the back of the Motability.
Which is funded by, so this is double debt.
Yeah.
What we're getting here is, so Motobility, which is funded by PIP, 100% funded by PIP, because only people on PIP can claim it. So they're using the money invested that is printed money from the UK government to issue bonds.
Yes, Barclays, HSBC, Lloyds and NatWest may have waived rights to any Motability dividends, but they have been organising its increasingly jumbo bond sales, earning more fees in the process. Some buyers speculate that they'd probably have to step in if anything ever went wrong.
Well, that's the...
Motability's too big to fail.
I don't want to go into car debt in this. We did this during a stream called The Infinite Bubble. If you want to look at the nitty-gritty of why people in the UK can't afford cars and the increasing finance, the insane finance being given to people to buy cars, this becomes even crazier that it's 20% of the new car market, and the new car market's crashed so much, as we'll get to later. But it becomes even crazier when you understand that the car market in general is just fueled by 2008 house loan style unsecured debt.
Stacked on top of itself.
Massive amounts of unsecured debt stacked on top of itself. And this is a mirror image of in the public sector.
I'm not going to turn around and say this is them being Machiavellian geniuses trying to get as much out of this as they can. I think they need to play this much funny accountancy magic just to get cars on drives.
The Big Four, this is being framed like the Big Four are making money out of this. They aren't. They aren't making money, they're the underwriters. And what they're doing is they're being given regulatory space to create fiduciary media in reward for taking on risk.
Yes.
What they're doing by creating these bonds is taking on massive amounts of risk. And if the price of used cars in Britain were to collapse, then possibly so would these Motability. Well, possibly so would Motability and the Motability bonds. And who would bail them out? Well, the government via the big four banks. And as we all know, the big four banks are just conduits. They are money conduits for the Bank of England. And their policy is set from above by the fact that they are allowed to take this money. But they can only exist as kind of these big these big conglomerated banks by taking the money. So you have banks whose policies are set by the government, taking out fiduciary loans from a company that is completely funded by the government to put into a bond market that is also largely bought up by the Bank of England when it starts to go a bit south. So it's a completely circular system. This is people just giving money to themselves.
Well, and how do you then actually begin to engage in a calculation to appropriately divvy out mobility as an economic good to people?
It's like health. It's like how
we're beyond the stage of there not being a price signal. We have got to a point whereby it is literally a government fiat sort of statistic and spreadsheet that is filled in, and mobility is just sort of divvied up to people here and there so that it's out there. Well, it's actually not being utilised in a long-term economic process.
Mobility has become a major debt issuer in UK PLC. Company has gone up the ranks, usually dominated by multinationals. Again, good lord. Debt insurance leaders.
Scroll down one little bit more there. Funding car purchases for people who have mobility challenges sits quite well in our thematic kind of space, says David Katimbo O. Mgwanga, senior fund manager at Eden Tree Asset Management, who bought its bonds. I wouldn't say the outlook has been particularly rosy, but there's still a solid single A name still. And if you look at their backing, it's the four main high street lenders. Spokespeople for Barclays, HSBC, NatWest and Lloyds declined to comment.
Well, they're also making a bit of an admission here that these were sold via ESG ratings. That the ratings on these bonds will be increased because they're just loans to help disabled people get cars. And if institutional investors lose money on them, they can turn around to people and go, well, we lost money, but we lost money for a good cause.
And our ESG score is through the roof. Right, should we crack on with some of the other stuff?
Oh, yes. Well, this also just covers a lot of what we're talking about. Yes. We're not going to get too into the weeds with most of it. Sorry, I tried to open that separately.
That's all right.
There it is.
But there was a lots of other stuff going on around this.
Yes.
What we are witnessing fundamentally is that the purchases and therefore the registrations of brand new cars year on year has just gone to shit.
Yeah. Look at what happened in 2020. It never recovered. 2009 through 2012 were considered like absolutely dying for the UK car market, and we're below those levels with much higher population. So the UK car market, this is even with Motability.
Yes, and this is the thing. This is why the Motability sort of bias or its ability to eat up such a large section of the market has become apparent, because the number of people who can afford a new car every 3 or 4 years has just completely plummeted.
Well, it's also a sign that if you're giving people a BMW 1 Series as a clearance, basically, to a Motability thing, it shows that BMW 1 Series is worthless and will sit in a forecourt forever.
It's almost like the price is being inflated by the fact that there's a supply of ready money to go towards it, just that there is in housing and a myriad of other things.
So, again, levels have not increased. We have seen things, get back to a place that is, quote unquote, a new normal with new car sales, in that nobody's bloody buying them.
I wonder if we're actually going to get to a point whereby the UK government considers like a first-time buyer payment for cars.
Yeah.
Whereas, we've got to a situation now where to be a first-time buyer of a house, you basically need the government's 25 or 40 grand, whatever you apply, or you can be eligible for, and that in turn bumps the price of all houses up, incrementally by that difference. They're going to end up causing the same thing here, surely. I can see it happening.
Yes, and this is
a new payment for first-time car buyers. Here's £2,500. whereby BMW and everyone else goes, oh, well, we'll stick £2,495 on the the sale price.
Well, there's a lot of different factors here, one of which is the EV switchover, which, again, we will not be talking about directly because that was in our demobilisation stream. We've done a kind of green stuff before. We've done quite a lot of green stuff before that talks about the EV madness, the absolute EV madness going on. But the changes to the way the car makers are legislated against has also caused this drop. In that, it's the negative spiral. There's less cars being made. They're worse. They're more expensive, and they've also got these awful compliance systems in them, which makes them even less desirable.
And they're being sold to a captured market that operates under no price incentive.
So really, what you're seeing is if that's 20% in 2024, you're actually seeing is 1.7 million registrations. You know, compared to the... If you take the number out, what you're seeing is something closer to the pandemic levels.
Yes.
The uptick in new car registrations, in fact, seems to be almost entirely Motability in these figures. The uptick is something like 0.3%, and the Motability is 0.2%. So there's been a 0.1% uptick naturally without Motability.
Yes.
Although it was kind of 5% before that. It's basically at least half of the uptick is Motability, which is, again, kind of nuts there.
Oh, we did have that one. It was just in the...
Oh, sorry, it was in the tab, yeah.
Just double opened.
Again, this is the car market is 62% fleet sales, and we're not quite sure if that includes Motability or not. We're not 100% sure if it does or it doesn't. We're going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say it probably does do, but that also,
There's it equates to a 23% uplift in fleet and business registrations compared to an 11% decline in private new car sales year to date.
Yes.
Now that, I don't understand why that's actually not the more shocking statistic here. Because this is a 23 to 24 change.
Yes.
But this has been the pattern since 2016, 2017.
They
Almost
just
a roughly
turbocharged it.
10% decline in private new car sales every year.
Yes.
Year on year.
Now, a lot of these will be... a lot of them are things like vans and Royal Mail.
Yes.
But when you realise that that's 62% of the car market and, 20% of the car market, so, a third of that is Motability. And that includes all the vans that Royal Mail buys, all the vans that Amazon buys, everything.
Yep.
You start to get a scale of just how many cars a year this is. It is absolutely mental is what it is. But
and as you described it as well, we don't just need to see Motability as one aspect of a government policy. It is one part of its own massive NGO umbrella. It is part of the state industrial disability complex,
which is absolutely insanely big. But it does function like an NGO. There is its charitable arm, and it does also function like a government department. I also want to highlight, and again, we'll get onto some of the insurance stuff, but Motability is a complete package. It goes, I believe it even tells you, where's it gone?
Yes, there you go. What's included?
Yeah, this is in the what's included section. If you get Motability, insurance, which is, we'll go into insurance costs.
Insurance up to 3 drivers as well.
Yes.
Which means if you have arrived here yesterday,
yes,
and you get your 1 Series BMW on PIP, you can turn round to your little sprogs that arrived with you and you can teach them to drive and it's going to cost you nothing.
Yes.
Whereas I am in a situation whereby I am 25 years old and at no point in my life for me or my immediate family has it ever been economically viable for me to learn to drive.
No. And it is this huge divide. It's this huge gulf between people who have Motability cars and people who don't. Because people who don't have to pay tax, they have to pay insurance, They have to pay you even get your servicing and MOTs, because the logic is, well, if you're on benefits, how would you pay for insurance?
And then, of course, when you
Breakdown cover,
when you boil the heads on the thing because you're from Tajikistan and you've never touched a machine in your life, the RAC will come out and get you anyway at our expense.
Yes. So all of it. Insurance is thousands of pounds for people, white people trying to learn to drive, because brown people who are large families get Motobility cars for relatives that never drive them and then sell drugs from them. And that is a large part. Like, you can again, we'll get into the insurance thing in a bit, but yeah, it's just amazing. Like, look at how insanely generous it is. But they're not even giving it a car; they're giving free car insurance, free servicing, and they don't have to pay road tax.
Well, the thing as well, as people are mentioning in the chat, and we're not going to entirely go into EVs, but as they say there, support with your EV.
Yeah.
So there we go. There's one government scheme and another government scheme facilitated by a public-private partnership that shoehorns people into a subset of options so that their choice environment is more further streamlined towards more environmentally friendly options.
Well, also, yes, they're also absorbing the completely undesirable EV market, because many people are, at least in the private sales market, have been trying to switch away from EVs. You'll find EVs more in the other bits of the fleet sector, but that's because certain companies have moved to EVs complete. You'll actually find less EVs than the national average in Motobility, but that's because they're just a clearinghouse. Yes. But it does also go into the whole green aims thing, yes. These are meant to be greener cars for the people, Comrade. We shall continue.
Yeah, there's someone in chat there as well. I worked at Hyundai. You even go out and collect the Motobility cars to service them.
Yes.
Well, isn't that just marvellous? Thank you for providing that service to Sanjeet and his family.
Builders. Well, this kind of document, or these kind of documents, this is the Mobility Operations Impact Report from 2024, which shows you what an environment this is. Because, yeah, I mean, okay, let's...
Do you know what? This is actually getting to the point where there's so much jargon going on with this. I feel that there's only one or two appropriate responses, one of which suggesting there are not enough lampposts in the country.
Yes, it's just operations, equity, diversity, and inclusion. It is one of these.
Let's can we get page 18? I want to know about our approach to people.
There's page 18. It'll just be corporate waffle.
Oh no, I know, but let's have a little hate read.
Page 18, our approach to people.
Our employees are key to leading the positive impacts we have on our customers and our communities. They're not customers, they're clients.
I've never worked anywhere with such a genuine customer. It's this awful Blair managerial jargon. It's the water cooler kingdom. It's boring office jobs as dystopia.
Yeah, by 2030, our customers will be supported by an even more engaged and diverse employee base that is representative of UK society across all levels of the business.
1,700
God,
employees.
They've even got a pay gap report.
Yeah.
Our progress in reducing our pay gaps across gender and disability. God.
Again, but this is the boring corporate face on a giant anti-human machine that is making car ownership privately deliberately unviable.
Well, this is also like a fundamental part, I think, of your integration, your nudge unit stuff to try and keep brown people happy in a country that they're not from. It's part of the entire complex of making it viable for foreigners to live in Britain.
Well, this is just a little article from 2001. Blair underlines commitment to PPPs. We don't have the debate around the public-private partnership anymore, but when it became not only more talked about, but a lot more visible, there were these discussions about the fact of should government be setting up these massive quote-unquote private businesses? Because it's very obvious that if you have two brain cells to rub together, that Motobility is a department of the UK government. As basically every business in Britain. But during the time period of kind of 2001 to 2005, there were talk about all the, the quangos, the public-private partnerships, and it was always sold from the left wing. direction of national, privatization through the back door, when really it's nationalization through the back door.
But I think it's more, to me, when I look at any of this, I mean, there's people in chat are saying, oh, well, public-private partnership, isn't this corporatism, isn't it fascism? I think you miss some of the nuance here when you try and label it as an ideology. I think you've got to fundamentally realise that you need such heavy and thick integration between massive organisations to make a society operate at this scale, or at least create the illusion that a society can operate at this scale.
It's managerialism. It's I think the frame for this is, you're right, so foreign to people that they just argue about it. The answer is, well, this is the way it's been done since 1945. And before, really. This is the way the administrative state works. This is managerialism. Ideology doesn't matter to it. This isn't done for ideological reasons. It's done for practical reasons.
Yes.
And again, I will repeat that as a mantra. These things are not done for ideological reasons. They are done for practical reasons. They aren't done well because they're done by a giant anti-human machine.
And that's what I was saying earlier on about the fact that it's part of this giant complex.
Yes.
PIP and Motability, even within that, is part of a giant complex of state sort of mechanics and dynamics that are there to make life viable for the tens of millions of foreign people that don't belong here. Well, it's not because they per se hate you, it's they're trying to run this economy with upwards of 85, 90 million people in it, and these are the measures pragmatically that might need to be taken to stabilise that.
Let's also just, once you have business registration and you have automatic business tax for all businesses, then you don't have private businesses anyway. They cease to exist. And again, I know that's like people go re-autism, re-ANCAP, but that's true.
Yes.
If you register businesses and you force all businesses to pay tax, there are no private businesses.
And the hardest part of some of these public-private partnerships, like Motability, is that because it's run by the banks as a charity, it escapes so many of the other bits of accountability that we would typically think an organisation with this much size and buying power would have to meet.
Well, yes, some of the only negative coverage of Motability until recently was from a left-wing pro-disability direction, which framed the uncomfortable reality that this giant public-private conglomerate exists, warping the car market as a profiteering issue.
Yes.
Or as no one knows how much the big banks are making from this. And that's the way this conversation is always framed. It's always framed from a left-wing lens or a right-wing slop lens. And nobody really does the maths in between, which says, holy crap, the UK car market has utterly collapsed. And our ability to get people into cars has collapsed. And the way they're trying to sort that is ridiculous. And that's the story. The story isn't political. It's managerial. It is a management issue. It is not an ideological issue. It is not a profiteering issue. It is not your pet issue. It is a straight issue of societal management and the ever closer management needed through this cycle.
But I think if it's not mentioned in this one, it was mentioned also in the Bloomberg piece. Yeah. But what it means is that Motability, as an individual buyer, is the largest operator of a vehicle fleet in Europe.
Yes, it is. Well, that's over here in the briefing paper in Scotland.
Right, this one.
But that kind of mentions that too. The Motability charity's income. Again, this refers to Motability as a charity.
But yeah, it's Motability Operations Group.
Yes.
So, say for example, if you were wronged by these people or you wanted to hold them accountable, say like you would Hope Not Hate or Circle, you'd actually be in a legal loophole for 2 years trying to prove who you're actually trying to sue.
Well, again, it's when someone turns around and go, why are you doing this to the UK car market? They go, oh, well, we're just a charity that helps disabled people get vehicles, and you're evil. And that's all that happens. That's all that happens. That's really...
So, scroll down. Point 4 here. In the latest financial year, Motability Operations made a profit of 560 million and donated a further 170 million to the Motobility charity. Together, these sums equate to £1,150 over the course of that financial year, I presume, for every Motobility customer. The net assets of Motobility operations increased in the past year to $2.88 billion.
This is from 2022, by the way. The scheme has doubled in size.
It's all an accountancy trick.
Yes, but they're not real assets. Again, these are people talking about printed money that's been doubled up. And then doubled up and sent to a charity and doubled up again. They're doubling the printed money. And people go, profiteering!
God,
because they're stupid.
People are even getting insurance rebates back through this.
Yeah, of course they are.
But what, rebates for insurance they don't pay for?
Yes, of course.
You've got me now. Let's just carry on here.
Of course they get insurance rebates.
But here's some of your far-right talking points appearing in The Guardian in 2018.
Yeah. Motobility boss firm quits after news of £2.2 million bonus. Public spending watchdog attacks package of Mike Betts. But how can the public spending watchdog attack the CEO of a private company? Again, you see the things start to break down here. When if you go, oh well, it's actually a government department. Oh well, it's a private business. Oh well, it's corporate. You can see that frame like completely makes you unable to deal with this.
And does that £888 million of tax breaks also include the road fund licence fee that these people on PIP and Motobility are not paying?
God knows. The thing is, a lot of these figures they're plucking figures out, and we try and run down where figures come from. We will not quote you figures we haven't checked out. We certainly won't quote you figures from fucking AI summaries. I mean, good Lord, they're a curse. But this is from 2018, so this is before kind of the turbocharging of the size of the scheme. But again, public spending watchdog, Motobility. And it's an admission that, yes, this is a government department. Oh, it's a private company. No, wait, it's a charity. No, wait, it's all of these things at once. And by being all of these things at once, anybody who doesn't do value-free analysis, anyone who doesn't step outside of the political frame and exercises we do anti-politics can comprehend it, because they become stuck in the ideological minutiae of a practical endeavour.
Yes. And it's a question that has been asked now for years. Why is no one buying new cars?
Yes.
I mean, this is one from 2024 that I picked out just because it's got...
Telegraph money, yes. It's got Arthur Daly.
Yes,
oh my God.
Not only has it got good statistics,
no one's buying the
it
cars.
also has Arthur Daly. So can we get some the hands like praying emojis in the chat for Arthur?
We'll get some Arthur. He is a friend.
Oh, Arthur is a good friend.
Arthur is a good friend. Yes. Got rid of this damn thing again. Where's the keyboard button? It's fine. I'll leave it. But
minimize and close it back up.
Okay. I'll do a risky refresh. There we go.
No.
Why drivers are no longer buying new cars?
Right. We should probably read the first couple paragraphs of this, because this will have most of the statistics we haven't listed already.
Arthur.
Yes.
I don't know, Arthur.
The new car market is crumbling to an all-time low as drivers shun high costs and shift their attention to second-hand motors. Demand from families and individuals dropped by more than 15% in June. There was a 15% monthly collapse.
Well, year-on-year month compared to last year's month, so yeah.
That's on top of the 10% one from the year or two before we were looking at. The number of cars sold to private buyers stood 67,625 last month, down from 79,798 the year prior.
Yes.
This is in stark contrast to the buoyant used car market, which saw demand rise 6.5% and reach a 5-year high in the first 3 months of 2024. Experts blame the decline on the cost of new vehicles. The average new car commands a price north of £40,000.
This is where the Motability thing starts to get so perverse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Compared with the average price of around £16,500 for a used car, according to motor retailer Auto Trader.
And part of this price tag is because you're competing with Motability for a set number of cars, because manufacturers have manufacturing limits and they have to have a certain percent EVs, but they can't make that many EVs and no one wants to buy them. So their solution was, we'll just make less cars overall.
Yep. The cost of a new motor has surged by 40% in the space of 5 years, while the share of new models for sale below £20,000 has slumped from 17% to just 4%.
And this is why we have cars for the people, comrade.
Yes, but I think that's as much as a consequence of Volkswagen, Toyota, Nissan, Ford responding to the incentives that are there. And we could maybe go on to the other Auto Express one we've got there, because that's got a couple of great statistics on it as well.
What about just the general rise in prices?
I was going to say...
we could talk about interest rates quickly too, in that all of this is quite shonky because it is once again an overcook. And if we have increasing overcook in, say, the car market, and we've got the car finance bubble yet to burst yet, we're going to have interest rates going up because things are going to start going wonky. And as interest rates start to go up, a lot of people who bought these deals...
Is this Umesh Somani again? Is this the same guy?
Is he just like a... What?
Hello, sir. You buy your cars from me. Beep, 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 beep.
Mr. Somani, why are you on all the papers, Mr. Somani? Does everyone just buy the cars from him?
No, there is one from the Auto Express article we've got next. Yes, that graph might also be useful to some people.
Yes.
But there is yes, I think it's the next one we have on the list.
There we go.
Yeah, if you scroll down just a little bit, where is it? There we are.
Not today. This bit here.
Yes. Over the past 10 years, is it in... Sorry, it might be the paragraph
There we go.
below here. Oh, there we go, yes. Over the past 10 years, the average list price of a new petrol car has soared from £27,000 to an eye-watering £45,000. That's up 67%, significantly more than the general consumer price inflation and wage growth.
Yes.
So, it begs a question then. Who the hell's actually buying new cars anymore?
Motability.
Well, or I think there's another one we've got from the...
But the people you'd expect to be on Motability are actually buying cars.
Yeah, I mean, that's the...
Sorry, it's this one here.
Yes. Yeah, here's a surprising thing. This is from 2018. The average age of a new car buyer in the UK is 54. The majority of new cars are bought by people in their 50s, 60s and 70s. The average age of a new Ford buyer, for example, is 56. For Volkswagen, it is 54. For Toyota,
there
it's
again.
63.
54 is also the average age of a UK engineer. It's also the average age of many other things to do with being a well-off private sector white person. Because if you're a well-off private sector white person, you're going to be the only people really, apart from, slightly dodgy drug dealers who aren't smart enough to do the pip scam, you're the only people buying cars.
But it's no surprise then if in 2018 the average age of a car buyer is 54... that come 2024, the average price of a car over the space of 10 years, only a couple of years off when this statistic was taken,
yes,
has increased by 67%.
Yes.
Because no one's looking to buy a cheap new car for their first car, are they?
No, people who buy new cars are at the higher end of the market. And so the new car market, they're just bought by the government for a ridiculous price anyway. So you will find the price differential between the top and bottom of ranges has very much closed. You'll find some good deals towards the top of ranges because the bottom of the range is so ridiculously expensive because there are Motability cars and not much else. Well, what's the bit you're trying to find there?
I think... Give me a quick second. Let's have a quick look. No, I don't think there's anything we too desperately need out of that. It was just to get us at least some idea of the age demographic, which I think is quite important because we can presume that age demographic now is probably ridiculous because if it's to look at only private new car sales, I bet you that 55 probably looks like 65 now.
I would like a breakdown of current new car sales by age, because the bigger factor we're not seeing here is that there is a massive differential between anyone under the age of 30 who has access to a Motability car and anyone who does not. As it talks about here, it is a huge scam. because these cars can have 3 named drivers. And if you're somebody who comes into the country, you bribe somebody to pass your driving test, and we'll go into that later.
No, I'm just saying, can I get multiple cars? Well, no, you can't claim multiple cars as an individual, but if someone else in your household, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, also claims PIP, they've got Motability credit too.
Yep. And it's up to any drivers, 3 drivers, and they don't pay insurance. That's the huge thing here.
No road tax or road fund license fee or whatever you call it nowadays. It's free, completely free insurance for 3 people of any age. Did they get their ULEZ free?
Only one of them can be under 21.
Did they get their ULEZ free as well?
Yes.
You get that.
I think you do, yes.
And you probably get a parking bloody thing as well.
Well, they're ULEZ exempt because they're new cars. Basically, all new cars are ULEZ exempt. Or basically, anyway. A lot of most of them will be. But it's the,
misuse of Motability vehicles.
Yeah.
If the car is misused, the lease could be terminated and drivers excluded from further use of the Motability scheme.
Never heard of that happen.
The following are considered misuse of the vehicle. Using the car in ways that do not benefit the disabled person.
Now, again, though, what you'll find is massive amounts of...
I don't see coke selling on there, so obviously. And I bet...
Massive amounts of foreign drug dealers running around in Motability cars that are named driver.
I can guarantee what will happen as well if you are caught as the sibling of a PIP claimant in their car engaging in an illegal act. The court will turn and argue, well, you can't take that car away from the disabled person.
Yeah.
Because that's their...
Yes.
Their entitlement.
Well, that's how they do it in America as well. It's the registering your car to a little old lady thing again. But yes, that's how the scam works.
Can I drive a Motability car with points on my license? What's the restrictions I've got there below?
Also awful.
As an all-in-one package, a Motability lease will include insurance, breakdown cover, and tax, but is not a limitless package as drivers must adhere to a number of restrictions whilst using the car, which aren't entirely listed there. 20,000 mile a year lease as well. That's not bad. That's better than most folk paying at the nose for them.
Yes, it is. That's pretty standard, and like you can probably just ring them up and they'll put that up.
But is that 20,000? But is that 60,000 for the car yourself, or does that limit increase when you've got more people on it?
God knows.
I bet you it probably does. It probably does. You go, hey, peep, peep, ding, ding, we drive car.
But that shows you just what I want to hammer home how generous and ridiculous this scheme is. It's free insurance for your basically half of your, well, depending on how big your house is, but 3 people in your household.
It's like I know people who.
Here we go. Yeah.
Sorry, I was gonna say I know people who would qualify for this in some regard, and they genuinely probably deserve it because they have had some form of terminal or life-changing injury that has meant that their ability to get around and do some of the day-to-day bits is genuinely hampered. But I know for a fact some of them will not touch this stuff because they know that it's there to provide cars to people who shouldn't have them.
Yes.
It's not just that it's a package deal. It's an oversimplification to the point whereby these are, of course, going to end up in the hands of the wrong people.
Well, it's also just a massive disadvantage to the native British population who don't claim benefits.
Yes.
If you don't claim benefits and you're under the age of 30, basically you don't exist. You live in a completely different country to everyone else. Basically us. We live in a completely different country to people on Motability.
Yes.
They do not understand, and most of them are probably not even capable of understanding the differences.
No.
But young people trying to get driving just can't. And that is the other side of this, in that the only people who will be able to drive under the age of 30 or will have learned to drive in many areas will be people with access to Motability cars. That will be the main way young people in certain areas learn to drive. Because if you're a working class white young person and your parents aren't on massive amounts of benefits, your life's basically over. You will never drive. And yeah, young people quoted £7,000 to £8,000 car insurance rises and things like that. And it is, insurance is mandatory in this country. And so anyone who's under the age of 25 especially, just gets absolutely hammered for it. It's thousands a year.
Oh,
it's thousands a year that Abdul, the drug dealer, isn't paying because his nan's got a Motobility in it.
Yeah, but it's the fact that Abdul is having accidents on the road, on road, yeah.
Bing, bing.
That's putting your insurance costs up.
Yes.
So I will probably never in my life afford to be able to drive a car because Abdul and everyone in his family needs to use it 4 times a day. And
but learn to,
bumps in every other garden and bin going on the main street.
Bark, bark.
Yeah.
Bark, bark. Bark, bark. Beep, beep. A 6-month wait for driving tests because corruption.
Yep.
This is something that they refuse to talk about in the press properly. It leaks out occasionally, but there is massive corruption going on with driving tests. Huge corruption. People demand money to get, to give you a place. And you can also just pay people to look the way while someone sits a test for you. That is rife in the system in Britain. That is how all the boat people get their driving licenses to get their Motability cars, because Cousin Mohammed is at the DVLA. And that is why it takes 6 months to get a driving test in many areas, because they're being sold by foreigners to foreigners so they can qualify for Motability.
Yep.
And again, it's difficult to find reports on this, but the leak out is the fact that we no longer are able to have normal people sit driving tests. If you're a young person and you're trying to learn to drive, good luck getting a car, good luck getting insurance, and good luck getting a driving test.
Yep.
And this is from this year. This is from April this year. And it was supposed to be a problem that was caused by lockdown, but it's a problem that's caused by boat people.
Yes.
And I'll repeat again, it will probably come out at some point, but there is systemic corruption in Britain where it did not exist before, and it exists within the driving test sector. Everybody knows about it, just like everybody knows about the barber shops and the vape shops.
Yeah.
It's barely
It's all
talked about,
sponsorship.
but everybody knows it.
Well,
we all know this is happening, and we all know who the Motability cars are going to.
Well, we can almost
20% of the market. 20%. You think that's mobility for disabled people? You think the mobility for disabled people can support 20% of the UK new car market? I mean, I would ask anyone who defends this, is like, do you have a mental problem? Like, are you disabled? Or are you just a disingenuous asshole trying to make a point? Because that is ridiculous. It is a ridiculous thing to say.
But the thing is that someone's making the point in chat there a bit further up about how, at least when they get it, all they can do is consume with it. That's it, though. That's, if we are only looking or trying to speculate what the small or the relatively small effect of Motability payments on the UK car market is. What is billions of pounds of PIP and universal credit getting spent every month off the back of absolutely no economic activity doing to our consumer economy?
How much of this consumer economy is not only nominally fake but completely fake?
Yeah.
What you're seeing is, yes, these people just waste the money they're given, and that's part of the engine the government uses on paper to drive its fake economic
But it means
numbers.
this bird here can still work in Starbucks because Abdul will pay £4.50 off his PIP money to get a stupid coffee for his missus or something.
It creates massive malinvestment. Yes, it does. It creates this spending environment that isn't real. And when this engine inevitably fails, everything built around it collapses. And that is the other story of this, is that it is, national scale malinvestment that we see 20% of the car market be a single customer that's backed by the government, because that's the only way for new cars to change hands for it to make sense. And it's this way that mortgages became, and it's like the social housing thing. Social housing came into existence, massively caused supply problems, because now like 20% of the UK housing stock is no longer actually a housing stock.
No.
The same thing happens with Motability. 20% of new cars in Britain aren't actually new cars, they're cars for the people.
No, we used to say like, the immigrants live in a parallel economy.
Yeah.
No, they live in the real economy.
Yeah.
We live in the parallel economy where we don't touch this stuff.
Yes.
Because we're not allowed access. And we, as a consequence of that, It's not even that we're second-class citizens. We might as well actually be living in a different country with completely different economic statistics.
If you're in Britain and you're brown, UBI exists. You get free money and a free car. You already live in a post-scarcity society.
And here's your phone.
Yeah.
Here's your college course.
Yeah.
Here's your fancy diversity job as well, which doesn't impact your PIP and your Motability payments because they're not means tested either.
Yes. But the whole point as well is that everyone gets, oh, I'm so, you're just jealous, or this point or that. They get mad at the immigrant. But the point is the malinvestment. The point is not actually the immigrant. It is the billions of pounds worth of economic activity that this is supposedly representing. That when you look at the British balance sheet, you look at the British economy, it's just this.
And
copied 50 different times and packaged into bonds and sold back, desperately trying to disguise the fact that Britain is incredibly poor.
A failed state.
Yeah, Britain is a failed economy. 20% of the cars having to be bought by the government is a failed economy.
I mean,
6 months waits for driving tests is a failed country. You would make fun in Soviet Russia. You must wait 6 months for driving. It's comedy levels, and yet people will sit here and go, "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow," because again, normal people will never wake up in quotes because they do know what's going on, and two, they're mostly just too stupid to process it properly.
But that's the thing. As soon as you try and think about the bigger picture of what effect is it having on the attempt to calculate, economic activity and allocate resources in Britain by having, I don't know how much money is actually spent in benefits in the consumer economy every year.
Yes.
What percentage of every pound spent in consumer transactions is benefits?
As results of benefits, yes.
I would love someone to work that one out. I bet you probably can't, but if anyone can work that one out, do get back to us. Because when you start to think of it in that scale, you realise, oh wait, a quarter of the country's fake. It's not real.
No, and it all becomes, this is just one sector of it.
Yeah.
This is just one small part of the fakery. But what we're seeing is that the entire supposed UK economy is simply printed money, put on the balance sheet multiple times. And when there is a reckoning, eventually, when we have to figure out, okay, what is actually being done in this country, we will be greatly alarmed, because all they have done is create a giant lie. And a lie creates a debt to the truth, as Jess always says. And that debt at some point will have to be paid. We will have to, at some point, reckon with the fact that there is no British economy. There is no British production. There really is, in effect, in many ways, there is no British state in some areas because the state's broken down even.
We actually live as domestic clients to an internationalist immigrant economy that has no productivity behind it.
No. That we live occupied by an internationalist state that has failed.
Oh, right. I presume we're wrapping up here at the end.
Yes.
However, I'm going to have to dive off, so I'm going to wish everyone a good evening. Hopefully, we'll see you again soon at some point.
Yes.
And if you have not already, please do consider buying book.
I will actually get book up. And I will say at the end here, if you've not bought Anti-Politics Volume 1, it is our collected writings from the past 4 years. Most of them have made them out to customers now. There was a little bit of a wait because you guys sold so many. We've sold over 300 of these, I can tell you guys. You have bought book, so good Lord, thank you for buying book. Thank you, comrades. But more of you can still buy book. And like I said, there will be hardback and PDF versions of this available when we've sorted out some of the technical stuff and we've double-checked the quality of the hardback. But that's really about it. We've been pushing the buy book and beating the buy book drum, but you should definitely buy book. Apart from that, I don't know. I don't get captured. When it was AVEC, keep your dick in a vice. That's a good catchphrase to steal. You guys have a good one. We'll see you next time. Oh, and if you enjoy the music, that is actually me. It's on the channel under a Tree of Gears. I'm hoping to produce an actual album or EP at some point, but a lot of people have asked me about that. But I'm working on it. Making music's difficult, especially at home. So yeah, but a lot of people have asked, so I'll actually finally comment over one of these.